Here are some comments from the man who has to work in the lion's lair in the UN itself, representing Israel, the ambassador, Israel's ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, commenting on the ICC's very shameful recent verdict. Let's listen to his very important comments.
Israel's ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, shalom.
Shalom, Yoni. Thank you for having me again.
The International Criminal Court in The Hague has issued arrest warrants against Netanyahu and Gallant. How do you see this development, and how should Israel respond?
That is a shameful decision of the court. It's a political decision to put the Prime Minister of Israel and the former Minister of Defense on the same list with notorious murderers. That's unacceptable. I think we have to act, and we will act. First, we have to speak with our allies in the United States to move forward with the legislation that will boycott the ICC and whoever is cooperating with the ICC. And I believe it will happen sooner than we expect. But also we have to take actions. We have to take actions against the Palestinian Authority. They are the one who actually initiated the process, and they are conducting diplomatic terrorism against Israel. I'm sure the government will decide how to do it, how to handle it, but they will have to pay a price for what they are doing.
The proposal to impose a ceasefire on Israel without any conditions for the release of hostages was thwarted due to a U.S. veto. What is the world failing to understand? Initially, there seemed to be at least some solidarity in terms of the hostage issue.
So we haven't forgotten the hostages. We will never abandon them. But it seems that some in the international community, they want to move on. They want to have a ceasefire. And then, yes, to speak about the hostages afterward. That's not acceptable. It has to be linked. There should be a condition that there will be no ceasefire if we don't receive the hostages back. We will continue to fight until we're going to bring all of them back. But I can tell you it wasn't easy yesterday in the Security Council to hear the voices. And I told them, you are abandoning your citizens. But I want to remind you, you have hostages from the UK, from the US, from France, from Russia, from many nationalities. They decided to abandon their own citizens. We will not do that.
Speaking of the American veto and the support from the U.S., do you expect much clearer and stronger support when the new administration takes office in the White House?
First, we have to pay attention to what will happen in the next 2 months. I was here in 2016 when President Obama passed a shameful resolution against Israel. I hope and I believe it will not be the case now during the transition. After the new administration will take control of the administration, I'm sure we will continue the cooperation. We are very happy with the nominations of senior diplomats, and senior politicians. The ambassador to Israel is a very good friend of Israel. The incoming ambassador to the UN, Elise Stefanik, she proved her moral clarity when she fought against anti-Semitism on campuses here in the US. And the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, is a friend of Israel. So I think we should be happy, and we could congratulate them for their nominations.
Now, regarding UNRWA, Israel has already begun taking concrete actions against this organization, but at the UN, they're still trying to portray it as a neutral body working for human rights.
That's an absurd. I have told the officials at the UN they should have dealt with UNRWA years ago. They shouldn't have allowed Hamas to infiltrate this organization. And today, we will continue to work with UN organs that deal with humanitarian aspects, but not the one who are actually promoting hate and allowing Hamas to operate from their own facilities. So it's about time to move on and to think about other organs that can take place instead of UNRWA.
Finally, Ambassador Danon, how does it feel to return to the same role you held just a few years ago? Has anything changed since the last time?
Well, I never imagined I would come back to this position, but you know that October 7th changed a lot, and we all try to do more and contribute more. It's much harder and more intense than I expected. I think it is the most challenging time for Israeli diplomacy since 1948, but we are strong, we are committed, and I tell my colleagues in Jerusalem and in the military that they should do what they have to do to win the war, to bring the hostages. We know how to handle the international community, the UN, but the most important thing is to win the war on the ground.
Israel's ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Johnny.
Here, this is just unbelievable. What we're seeing actually before our eyes is a worldwide moral collapse. That's actually what is happening, and it's becoming so blatant and so so ridiculous that I am very hopeful that this is going to give the opportunity for people to no longer be able to hide in this level of moral bankruptcy, because it's becoming so blatantly clear and black and white that it absolutely doesn't make sense. It defies everything. I mean, everything that the ICC is meant to defend and stand up for it's doing the exact opposite. It's just unbelievable. And my hope is that as this moral collapse happens, it will give space for the rebirth of seeing that we need to have a God, and we need to have guidelines for morality which human beings cannot figure out on their own. And when we try to, we end up looking like the United Nations and the ICC.